I'm Leo Sidran with The Art of the Story. Today we're remembering drummer Paul Motian on what would have been his 95th birthday. Some musicians leave behind a body of work. Others leave behind a sound. A very small number leave behind something harder to define, a way of thinking, a way of listening, a set of values that continues to circulate long after they're gone. Paul Motian was one of those musicians. He was profoundly influential to generations of players, drummers and non-drummers alike, myself included. And a big part of what he offered had to do with space, with restraint, patience, the idea that music happens not only in what you play, but in what you leave open. When my father, Ben Sidran, spoke with Paul in the 80s, they talked at length about Paul's early years in New York, and especially his time with Bill Evans. By the late 1950s, that trio had quietly reshaped what small group jazz could feel like. But Motian was quick to demystify that process.
We hardly rehearsed at all.
What mattered more was listening and trust. As Paul explained it, playing in that trio meant absorbing ideas from the folks around him and letting those ideas reshape his own conception.
I sort of took from the different people that I played with, and that developed my drum style. I mean, when I'm playing drums, I'm not thinking drums, I'm thinking music.
And that perspective carried through everything he did. He tuned his drums by ear, he played a stripped-down kit, and he talked about how much music could come from very little.
I've done gigs, even today, I mean, sometimes I might get a call for a gig, and I'll do a gig somewhere where I'll just take that basic thing, bass drum, snare drum, and a couple of cymbals, that's it. I mean, you can get a lot of music out of that. Yeah. But the tom-toms, if you got tom-toms too, then you got something extra, and another couple of cymbals, wow, you got an orchestra already.
Yeah. Even in freer settings in the late 1960s and beyond, Paul resisted the idea that freedom meant chaos. He insisted that the time was always there, even if it wasn't obvious or even.
I think there's always a pulse, no matter how free it sounds or seems to sound. Maybe it's not an even pulse.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But it's a pulse, it's going on. When I'm playing, I'm not thinking of moment to moment. Or sometimes I am, but I'm not thinking, well, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. It's a continuous, it's on a much larger scope than that.
In that sense, Motian's drumming always felt conversational, responsive, human. He was listening as much as he was playing, shaping time rather than marking it. While many musicians of his generation became increasingly focused on equipment and technology, Paul understood that temptation, but he wasn't especially interested.
I'm glad I'm not into it. I'm glad I'm where I'm at. The music is where it's at.
In a musical culture that often rewards virtuosity, speed, and volume, Paul Motian remains a quiet corrective. Paul Motian, remembered on what would have been his 95th birthday. You can hear my father's full interview with Paul Motian from the 80s at WBGO.org. I'm Leo Sidran, WBGO News.